wondering about the living in the bubble, what that's been like. How many clothes did you, how many suitcases did you pack? What's that been like so far?
Overly interesting. Um, I only packed one bag, and the manager's already lost one set of my clothes. Um, so I'm not giving the managers, any more laundry. I went old school in my sink, used shampoo to wash my clothes that I worked out in. Um, I'd love to say I was on the internet a lot. So, I know a lot of people know that I like to tweet. If my Twitter's not, if I'm not up to my normal Twitter game, it's because the internet's very slow. Um, so I'll just kind of leave it at that on the bubble experience. It's a true bubble. I can tell you that.
Any concerns, Eric, about it being an issue to deal with the players, boredom or anything else?
Well, I mean, there's boredom. Um, I'd rather not comment any more than just, the fact that, we're in our rooms and we're at practice for an hour and a half and we're back in our rooms. And then we go to the meeting room and we eat. And then we're asked to leave the meeting room after a short time frame. Normally as a staff, we sit in the meeting room, sometimes an hour before practice and we sit after that we're in our rooms individually instead of discussing stuff as a staff. So, and the preparation's been a little bit difficult with the internet situation, downloading, film. Um, so I guess that's about it.
Thank you.
Mike, did you say Bob? Okay, sorry.
I said it, Bob. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Eric. I appreciate you. Shout out, literally. Hey, you know what a smart young guy Scotty is? He did all this great research a few weeks ago about you got a really good record, period, but you got a great record when you have extra time to prepare for a game like you do for this one. What do you think's the key to that? What all
filmed and prep?
Well, I'm sure you're figuring out better than most people. What do you think about that record? What do you think it says about you and the way you prepare? And does that give you added confidence going into a first round game like this?
I mean, I think that from a preparation standpoint, Bob, it's really about your players and how much they can retain. And as a staff, it's, every team that you coach is different. But I do think because we prepare for teams a lot differently than most teams. I mean, I haven't changed our preparation with the college team one iota from how I prepared an NBA team, and NBA players are really smart. So I think we set the bar really, really high from the first game of the season with our preparation, and they know they have to digest a lot of stuff. They get quizzed a lot. I'll text guys individually about matchups. And so I think that, whatever your team's used to, our team is used to the fact that they're going to get asked a lot of questions. They're going to be put on the spot in front of their peers. They're going to have to know multiple ways to guard pick and roll. They're going to know at halftime that there's a great chance that we'll make an adjustment maybe on something that we haven't worked on, and they're going to have to be able to take it, from the chalkboard, to the floor. Those are some of the expectations that we've set forth, from day one of the season. And they also know that we're going to adjust game to game, that we don't just practice the same thing every day, that our belief is that every team presents its own unique set of dilemmas that you've got to work on. And we're going to game plan game to game. Like our game plan is going to be different this game than it was prior to the LSU game, because the personnel that we're playing against has different strengths. So, and I do think with more prep time, I probably should have been a football coach. That would have probably been better suited for me to have 6 days between games. That maybe I'd have a better record if I was coaching football.
Well, I think your record's pretty good. And do you feel like, because you've obviously got you got a lot of new players, even if they're old, and you got a lot of young guys, but do you feel good that they've been able to do this NBA type preparation to pick up on it?
I do, Bob. Again, I think it's just a standard. I think that, early in the year, I think that a lot, like a lot of our younger players, when you put together game plans that maybe they're not used to, that might have had a little bit to do with, minutes early on in the year. I think that there's a learning curve for any high school player to play college, but then there's even more of a learning curve when the system that you're playing in. Again, I mean, all of our play calls offensively, the play package, if you looked at my Golden State Warrior playbook and you look at, the Arkansas Razorback playbook, it's identical. I mean, we've added a few wrinkles, obviously, but it's the same playbook. I could just take that playbook and just slap a different logo on it. And we're expecting college players to do exactly what we've done at that level. So I think it's really challenging from a mental standpoint. And I guess Mr. Moody must be coming on after me because he's walking up right now. And, I think you can ask Moses about the detail, because he played probably in as detailed program as there is coming out of high school. But certainly this is just a different, level. And then when you talk to Isaiah Joe and you talk to Mason Jones, or you talk to guys when they go through NBA workouts, the terminology and all that stuff, these guys are already used to that. As a matter of fact, Caleb and Cody Martin have talked about, we had as big a playbook as their NBA team. So I think that all that stuff helps guys, in their next journey beyond college as well.
Thanks, Eric. I'll ask Moses that. I got a couple more for you if time allows. I'll give it back to Mike. Thank you.
Nate Allen.
Yeah, Eric, with Jalen Tate, the last couple of games seems like he has 2 fouls before the media timeout. Is that a concern? And kind of what do you have to do to keep him out of foul trouble?
I mean, it's a great question, Nate, but he's got to keep himself out of foul trouble. That's on him. I mean, if you want to play minutes, you got to stay out of foul trouble. And he usually gets assigned, the best offensive perimeter guy. And he has gotten in foul trouble, but that's also, Nate, I think what makes him a good defender is he's an aggressive defender. But certainly our preference would be for him to only pick up 1 foul in the first half and not put himself in a position where he's sitting next to me. So, I mean, we've talked about hands up, body up, and letting the refs see your hands, and all those things become extremely important.
Also for Colgate, is there much of an advantage for them that they've been to the NCAA tournament 2 years ago, that their seniors and juniors have played in an NCAA tournament before?
I don't think it hurts. I mean, you look at Burns. I mean, he torched Tennessee as a younger player. So I think that we've showed our guys tape of what they did when they played Tennessee, and that game was so close. And we have incredible respect for Colgate, their personnel. We know they're great cutters. We know they can shoot the 3. We know their 2 guards are dynamic. We know their big men understand their roles. They're a really well-coached team. Their coaching staff does a great job with their team. And we're well aware that many of the national media members, have come up with the prediction that, Colgate's a favorite in this game too. So all those things we're well aware of. Excuse me, you guys, I'm doing national media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hutch.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned Burns torching Tennessee a couple of years ago. What kind of problems does he present? What do you have to do to slow him down?
Yeah, Hutch, he can shoot the 3. Your internet's better than mine, so you probably can watch more clips than I can, Hutch. But he can beat you off the bounce. He's crafty. He can shoot the 3. We've talked to our team about his Dame Lillard range, because he'll pull up, he'll lull you to sleep with rhythm dribbles. So all those things from a tendency standpoint, You've got to be really aware if you guard him. If you get switched onto him, you've got to be aware of him. And then obviously we all know about the pace of play that Colgate pushes the ball, and you've got to get to match up as quickly as possible before the ball crosses half court, because that's going to be too late.
Scotty.
Hey, Coach, Moses is on a real scoring tear. I think the last 4 games, probably his best of the season. What do you think is key to that run for him, and what kind of growth have you seen in his game off the bounce this year?
Yeah, to answer the second question, Scotty, he's really improved a tremendous amount off the bounce. I think early on he got a lot of points off spot ups. I think he's elevated his game where now he's a great one-on-one player. He's a great isolation player. He's going to even be better as his game continues to grow off that. He's a great offensive rebounder, and I think early on it was his perimeter shooting. And then, it turned into being a great finisher in transition. It turned into Moses understanding that he was going to really have to move without the ball when he became a focal point of the opponent's scouting report. When that happens, your game has to evolve. And his game has evolved because he's worked hard. He's put the time in. And I can tell you guys, after every meal, pregame meal, postgame meal, every time the film's going, and I look out at the audience of our players, there's one guy who those 2 eyeballs never move off that screen, and it's Moses. And when we finish a meal, the last guy out of the meal is Moses when film's being played. It's the same thing with Cody and Caleb Martin. I see the exact same characteristics with Moses as far as this singular focus. And then, why is his game evolved and why is he better off the bounce? Because he works. Like when you walk into our practice site, he's always in there. So there's no coincidence why his game is improved. It's because he invests. He puts the time in.
Jacob.
Eric, what is Friday morning going to look for you guys getting the guys going? I think maybe the first Mizzou game started at noon, but besides that, it's one of the earliest starts of the year.
I mean, you got to get yourself ready to play, man. You got to wake up with some energy and enthusiasm. I hope we don't do what we did at the 12 o'clock tip against Missouri, because I'll be back there joining you guys in Fayetteville real quick if we don't wake up. Hey, they give you time, you go play it. These guys are used to AAU ball where they're playing at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. And but we got some guys that like to sleep in. Hopefully they understand the importance of going to bed real early. But there's not much else to do, so everybody should get to bed early.
Have you guys talked about early jitters or anything like that? That first game for those guys who are playing their first game ever in the tournament?
I mean, you have to play that. And, yes, we are going to talk about that. We have talked about it. I mean, look, when you make the tournament, you got to have some fun. You got to play relaxed. You got to play composed. You got to understand it's a 40-minute game. If one team gets up 8-2, you cannot panic. All those things, and I've been a part of, 2 crazy games with, the Cincinnati game where we were down so much. So I've seen a team have a big lead and lose it. And I've been on the other end where we didn't quit playing when we got down really big. These games, they got weird rhythms to them, man. And there's always momentum changes in games, but in the NCAA tournament games that I've been a part of, there's been the wildest, craziest momentum swings that I've ever seen in basketball games. In whether it was me as a player, the 2 times I was witnessed it, or as an assistant coach twice, or the last 4 years being in it as a head coach, man, there's going to be some. I told my wife and daughter and son Matthew that are flying in, put your seatbelt on, because this thing's crazy, and it's going to be like a roller coaster during the course of a 40-minute game.
Okay, Coach, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you very much. We'll bring in Moses Moody.
Mike, I don't have anything else to do. It's the only time I want to talk to these guys. What if I want to stay another half hour? I still got to go? All right. If Mike gave it this, I got to go. See you guys. I'll go back to my room. If anybody wants something individually, just text me.